here for RallyABQ, last one of the year. We've had a pretty tremendous 2018. A lot of different topics were discussed, and I feel like we've made some really good traction on a whole range of different subject matters. And so thank you for your continued dedication to be here. As always, we'll expect people to trickle in late, which is why we have shifted the presentation area of the room, so that now, if we're filming, people coming late, they don't get busted on film. So, certainly am glad to have you here and on time. Hope you continue to enjoy some breakfast and coffee throughout. But I want to welcome Clay and Michelle Schroff. I have known them for quite a few years. I think I first met them probably 10 years ago, something like that, when I was working back at a radio station, and they were doing Wednesday's trial and giving information to the radio audience about kids that were available through the foster care program that needed a loving forever home. And so I wanted to welcome them in to share what they've been working on for the last number of years, both through the Aspen Project and Project Zoë. They have been really in tight connection with CYFD, which I really wanted to have them speak on a little bit, because I think as we have established in this group, we need to understand what healthy relationship looks like between the nonprofit world and government agencies. And so I want to welcome Clay and Michelle.
Thanks for having us. I'm Clay, that's Michelle, in case you were and you know, it's really kind of, it's kind of strange. We'll see Aspen Project and Project Zoë. Believe it or not, we actually met with some folks, and we've changed it just Aspen and just Zoë, because the girls or the young people or the families that we were working with, we didn't want them to feel like they were a project. So it was just good counsel. Not that that's a correction that we really have to put out to the public, but it really just shares our heart in the fact that it's really important that the people that we touch in the community know that they're more than a project, that we care about them very personally. The only reason I bring that up is I saw it and I went, you know, it was really hard for me, because every time I speak, I say, yeah, we're with the Aspen Project. My wife goes, no, we're just Aspen now, so you know. So my wife actually is a very smart woman and said, Clay, you need to organize your thoughts and write them down. So I'm going to do this a little officially, and then we just really want to share our hearts as to what we've done in the community. The Aspen Project strengthens families and provides the mentorship programs, parenting classes. We do adoption and foster care support. We hope to positively impact the community by strengthening the family unit through community connection and support. Aspen Project works with the state of New Mexico. We work with the Bernalillo Sheriff's Department, Special Victims Unit, community groups, faith-based organizations, guiding and providing a safe and loving place for families and children to find a loving and a safe home. Now, Zoë is empowering and equipping women between the ages of 13 and 25 through a customized appointments. We have an exclusive clothing boutique that the girls come in, and where they are met by fashionistas. They're clothed, the whole boutique, it's about a little smaller than this, but the entire showroom of the boutique is fitted for one girl. So when she comes in, every shoe, every pants, every shirt fits that young lady. And then after they're done, they get a chance to sign up for continuing education. And I'm going to let my wife explain more about that. But the reason that we chose the name Aspen is this very fact. Aspen trees, the roots of an aspen tree, they grow pretty close to another aspen tree. And those roots wrap around the existing or the neighboring aspen tree, and they graft together and become one living organism. And that's what we are as an organization. As one aspen tree finds water, they all find water. And I don't think people really realize that. After a fire, aspen trees actually take over in an area because their roots are still living. And if one root is living, the rest of them continue to live. And as an organization, that's really what we based our organization on, is that fact, is that we are going to, as the Aspen, right, I have certain resources that another organization may be able to use. And, but you have resources that I don't have. But as we network, so now we have 2 of us, and then we have 3 of us, and it's really discipleship in so many different ways. But if we can plug in with our community and provide resources that you don't have, then we don't have to recreate the wheel all the time. So I'm going to have Michelle just speak a little bit about Zoe, what it does, and then we'll kind of get into how we've teamed with Children, Youth and Family, the Sheriff's Department, and just many of the governing agencies.
With Zoe, like I said, it is a boutique. We do not have a showroom. He sells cars for a living. It's a small boutique that we set up for young ladies to come in, and that is just our initial interaction with them. And the ladies that come in are sent through a sponsor. So we don't, go out on Central and say, hey, would you like a boutique appointment? We actually know that these are young ladies that want to change the way that they're living, or they need a positive influence. So when they're referred to us, we are given their sizes, special likes, dislikes, and those agencies that send them are the Albuquerque Girls Reintegration Center. That is part of CYFD, that's part of the juvenile justice of CYFD, and what they do is they will help give life skills to girls that have been incarcerated. A number of those young ladies come into community service with us on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and it's a great time to get to know them, and that's really our heart, is we don't want to look at this as just, okay, we're gonna bring them through, we're gonna tally them. We really want to get to know them, and we really want to impress that they are more than their past, whether they've been victims or whether they have been perpetrators. And then we also have young ladies that come from UNM mental health, maybe eating disorders, some home issues, maybe, mom struggling parenting because of the loss of a husband or a father figure. And we also see a lot of girls from BCSO, Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department, that have been trafficked. And those young ladies, usually those are drop-in appointments where the sheriff will actually come and pick up clothing and toiletries and accessories for the young lady, and hopefully we will get to meet and mentor. And those have been the relationships that we've been able to establish for years. We have one young lady right now that we've been mentoring for about 4 years, and just the things that you hear, you can't believe. But there are also things that you go, I can be a relief and I can be a soundboard for what they've been through, because a lot of times, evidence will come through, things will be able to be shared because their guard is down, and we are able to help the community in that way also. We're able to share with law enforcement agencies, what actually is going on, what actually happened in a particular case. So that, that part of, what we do is the fun part, with clothing, and we do workshops, and we do a prom once a year in April. We partner with Heritage Hotels, and it's a free prom for girls that are affected by poverty and violence that are referred through Zoe, and a lot of girls from New Day and young men will go to prom for free. They can come get formal wear from us. They come the day of prom, we give them corsages, and we transport them to prom, and then we open it up to the public. So you'll have homeschoolers with kids that are homeless, and it's absolutely beautiful. It is so wonderful to see a room full of kids that don't know each other, but absolutely love each other, and there's no cliques, and when you went to your high school prom, it was probably very different. And we were on, I think, our 5th year now.
250 kids showed up last year.
It keeps growing, and actually Heritage Hotels wanted to give us a larger room this year because we do it at Hotel Albuquerque, and they said, I think this year we want to do a larger room because we don't want to get in trouble with the fire department, because the kids, they have a great time. They come before it starts and they stay in until after it's over. So that's a lot of what we do at Zoe.
So Aspen Project as a whole, if we were just to bear it down to what it is that we are ambassadors for children. And what that really means is this. I remember someone had mentioned Chip Lesko, and he interviewed me to figure out exactly what the Aspen Project was. And the lesson I learned was, we're not just one thing. As I talk to so many different people, it's always, Clay, you got to narrow down what you do. And I'm going to be honest, being an ambassador for children, because the bar moves constantly with that, we kind of remain liquid. We try to fill the vessel that's needed most. And as we're called out, because we are a ministry, right? So if one of the things that we do, and this will be a perfect example, is that we were asked to join the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department on their special victims unit. And with the and it's called Operation Safe Child. It's a wonderful program, and I think what it's going to do is it's going to launch all across America. But what it does is it's a time during the month that families or children have been identified by Children, Youth, and Family, or by arrests, or the things that you read about in the papers. What it is a re-checkup on that, and we're privileged to be able to go into that home and offer our resources as the Aspen Project. So it could be a family, and I can't share specifics, but for instance, right, the dad was drunk, he doesn't drink very much, and he beat the living tar out of his son. The sheriff's department is called out. This was the day before we got there. We didn't even know about this. And come to find out, he blacked out during his drinking problem. And everyone that we talked to, he was actually a really nice guy. His words to me were, I said, so is that true? And he goes, if my son says it's true, it must be, right? So we're able to get him plugged into resources, dealing with the issues. You know, he can't drink, right? He needs to be plugged in and know that there's accountability, things like that. Other homes where you have children that are neglected or abused, we can actually give parenting classes to the parents. If we can make the parents stronger, right, then they don't actually lose their children. They become the parents that they've never known how to be. Unfortunately, and as you look back over this, the community as a whole, there's a cycle that happens. If you go back to their parents, there's the sexual abuse or the physical abuse or the mental abuse, right? It's a cycle that continues to happen. As the Aspen Project being brought in by the Sheriff's Department, we're able to give them outside resources. And if we can give a family hope and change the direction of mom and dad, or mom, or just dad, right? Because we're dealing with broken families, right? You can't have your boyfriend come over here. He's got a criminal record for sexual abuse. You can't have him with your kids, right? And we put up safeguards and you do check-ins. And it's not as complicated as it sounds because it's people, right? It's like people in this room. If I went around this room, I guarantee that some of us have stories that we wouldn't want everyone else to know about. But if you had someone that you knew cared and loved about you, right? And I called you up, or the loving one calls you up and says, hey, we just wanted to make sure that you made your AA meeting. We just wanted to make sure that you got Joey to the counselor. We wanted to make sure that your boyfriend, right, that he's not staying at your house anymore, that he's not picking up your kids. Just accountability, right? Or we provide resources, right? You can plug in with us. Pull Together campaign is a state-run organization. You can go to pulltogether.org, and it gives people resources. And then there's other lists out there. So it's a matter of just providing resources. Why are we successful? One of the questions, right? Because we're a Christian organization. We're Christ-centered. And I don't know who's in this room, but we're not ashamed of who we are with that. But let me say this. When we work with children, youth, and family, right? And we're invited to one of their events, we understand that they have certain guidelines or rules or boxes that we as an organization should stay in. Do we hide who we are? We don't. But we want to honor the fact that we're guests in their house, right? Yeah, I go to some house, you don't have to take off your shoes when you come to my house. There are some places I have to take off my shoes, right? And that's kind of what we do as an organization. But the truth that we give people never changes. I don't have to preach at. Project Zoe, for example, or see, I just did it myself. Zoe, right? To be a volunteer with us, it's a pretty stringent thing to be able to counsel these girls. It's not like everyone can just come and volunteer. You have to go through an extensive amount of training and background checks. But once you finish that, right, as a Christian organization, you have to sign a letter of grace. What do you mean, Clay? Well, it basically says that everybody, that we don't preach to or at anybody. Now, this is our organization. We don't preach to or at anybody. And everybody has the right to believe whatever they want to believe. It's a God-given right. We believe that. We believe that God has given us all those choices, right? So we won't preach to or at. If you come into our boutique It doesn't have Christian stuff all over the place, but it has Christian principles everywhere. Now let me share this, but at the end of that statement of grace, it says that we will never hide from our faith. So if you were a young lady coming in, or you were a family from Bernalillo County, I have Bibles I carry. They know I carry my Bibles with me, and I give them out freely. They can sign up for part of the continuing education could be a Bible teaching class or a Bible study. The difference is, as a ministry, that we are what I call a pull ministry. Come and see why our lives have been changed, why the lives of the other people that we've been in contact with have been changed, not pushing what our beliefs are on them. So one of the reasons that we're successful with Children, Youth, and Family, the state, I've been invited in, we sit on a board that reviews the worst of the worst cases. And one of the reasons that we're allowed in there is for that very reason. And it comes with a lot of luck. The story of how I got involved with Children, Youth, and Family may surprise you. I called the governor. I don't know the governor at this point, right? Had no idea who the governor was. I just knew that Children, Youth, and Family needed help, and the governor was in charge of them. So I called the governor's office. And I said, hey, I'm Clay Schroff, I'm with the Aspen Project, and we help kids. We're da-da-da-da-da. And they go, you want to talk to the governor? Yep, I want to do. Well, why don't you talk to the secretary? So the governor's office sent me to the secretary, right? Cabinet secretary. Well, she gets a call from the governor's office introducing her to Clay, right? I don't know this. I don't even know what she does, just being really honest. Then the secretary goes, oh, the governor's office sent you to me. I'm going to send you with the director of Children, Youth, and Family, and I'm going to plug you in with him. So the phone call probably went something like this. Hey, the governor's office sent me the Aspen Project. They sent him to me, I'm sending him to you. So now we have a set up meet. And that's how the Aspen Project truly got started with Children, Youth, and Family. That's the truth.
Yes. Well, and also, our history is that we have 3 biological children at the time. We had 3 biological children. We adopted a child from Russia. This was 18 years ago. And going through that process, it was very difficult. This was before Hague. This was before, Homeland Security. And so we go to Russia, come home, and I was like, wow, we cut a lot of corners in that because, God, it was insane. We were in Russia within 3 months, passport, visas, everything. We were back in 10 days, which is unheard of. And we said, imagine what it's like the actual way it's supposed to be. So that's when we started Aspen Project. And then we came home, and 4 months later, we were pregnant with daughter number 4. And we were like, we're done, we're not having any more kids, the end. And then 7 years later, we started fostering. Had a few failed adoptions internationally. We were terrified of CYFD. We are believers. We were told absolute horror stories about how CYFD treats believers. And we thought, no, this, we really feel like we're called into this. And we thought we're just going to be a place for children to come and stay until they go home. Because, CYFD always says, we reunify families. We bring families back together. 70% of the time they do not. So there's a huge need for foster parents. And we were like, okay, and adoptive parents. So we go to the first meeting, we're like, easy. So our first placement, permanent placement, 3 children, the absolute worst case in New Mexico state history. And we're like, oh wow, these kids aren't going home. What are we gonna do? Okay, well, 5 years later, we adopt them. Then we get 2 more kids. Well, looky there, we adopt them. And then we get another child, we adopt him. We have 10 kids, 6 that we've adopted, 1 from Russia, 5 from CYFD. So we did have that. We were able to share with CYFD our experience with being foster parents. So, we really just feel like this wasn't an accident. Clay jokes about, I wanted to talk to the governor. Well, yeah, because, we did have stories. We did have situations that we were not comfortable with fostering. There were a lot of times that they wanted to send kids home that we were like, no way you're taking this kid and moving them across the country with no home study. So we really advocated for the kids, and we noticed that as foster parents, that a lot of times they feel like they can do nothing. They're like, we just feed them, we don't do anything. Yeah, they spit on us and we just walked away. No, that's not what our job is as foster parents. We are to advocate for children. So our journey really began when we began fostering.
And then our hearts started changing because, you know, you get a kid and you hear the horrible things that the parents have done or allowed to be done to these kids. And, you know, we were thinking capital murder, we can do that, you know, we'll go to Mexico. And then we were, you know, we just had a real softening of heart and going, there are families that are hurting. And, you know, we had 2 kids that the grandma was 35. And these were number 3 and 4 grandkids for her. She was a foster kid, you know? And I'm like, we've got to figure out, how do we interrupt this cycle? And that was when we started going, okay, what can we do? And that's when, you know, my husband, who's a doer, just started calling people. And, you know, and then we started doing. And when the microphones were placed in our faces, we decided that we didn't want to take the credit for it. We wanted to point it back to CYFD because we really know that a partnership with CYFD is difficult. I mean, I don't know if anyone in the room has tried to get involved with a governmental agency. It's not easy. And we feel very blessed that we were invited, you know, to do this. But a lot of it was just being very honest with them and letting them know our hearts for this community because we love our community. We love New Mexico, and we do want New Mexico to be the best place to be a kid. It's not. We're 50th. We, you know, childhood hunger. We're just, it's hard to know where to start, but do something, you know, and that's where we felt like we have to do something. And that's how we ended up morphing into this crazy.
So with Children, Youth, and Family, they appeased us because of how we got there, right? But you know how we stayed there? We painted rooms, and we washed toys, and we brought pizza to workers. And I think if the advice I give with working with anything governmental is this: there are people there that are understaffed, right? They're overworked, and they're way underpaid. And when you have an organization that shows up and just thanks them and we give them pizza, and it's not a bribe because we really believe it, it lets them know that we really care. And when we as foster parents went into a room and the toys were filthy, and we can all go, well, Children, Youth, and Family should, they're so overworked, they can't even breathe. And we're still working with those agencies, right? So and then we teamed with a lot of churches. It was kind of cool. There were certain churches that went and did stuff, and they said, hey, we're here with the Aspen Project. And then they called me and said, hey, is that okay? We painted a room and washed some toys, and we said we were you. Is that okay? But does that make sense? And it grew. And what we find is, and she's absolutely right, with the Sheriff's Department, anytime that a microphone is put in our face, it's really important that Children, Youth, and Family gets the credit because they're doing the work 90% of the time. With the Sheriff's Department, with the Special Victims Unit, what an honor it is to go with them, but they're creating the resources, they're doing the hard work. And if we can give them back the credit, it builds them up. Also, when you're out with governmental agencies, I'd start small. I try to just to be there and support them. But it's amazing that when you can lighten their load, but yet when their boss comes in and they get full credit for the success that just happened, they invite you back. Does that make sense? So for us, it's been a privilege to get. I got to be honest. There are times, and it's more so than not lately, but we get more cooperation with the state agencies than I do the Albuquerque churches. And for whatever reason that is, and I'm not slamming our churches, I love our churches, I love our family church. But I think it's pretty awesome that the government is now reaching out. They're desperate for change. When you're on the bottom of the list, right, no matter what they do, they're desperate for change. And it allows a door to be open for each and every one of us to get in and actually do something. If you get involved with Children, Youth, and Family, or the Sheriff's Department, or APD, or the state police, or the district attorney's office, dealing with children, the attorney, you gotta have thick skin. You have to be unshockable. You're gonna hear things that you didn't think were possible by another human being. The darkness that is truly out there in Albuquerque community and around the world is horrific. There are things going on that will never make the news because the news couldn't handle it. But as organizations, as believers, when we're called to go into those dark, deep horrible muddy waters, we go. And the other nice thing is that we built ourselves a community around us of support, right? So when something like that happens, that you don't have to carry that by yourself. So, do you guys have questions for us? We kind of went completely off with my wife and me.
Let me ask some questions that I had scripted, and then I'll open it up to the room just to kind of tie it all together. So you talked about the engagement with CYFD and how that happened. Did the trust part of the relationship just come through you constantly being available and showing up, or were there other elements that helped build the trust between you and CYFD?
You know, most people who volunteer with governmental agencies are very excited and have great intentions, right? But when it gets hard, and it gets really hard, they quit. And the truth is that you just can never quit.
Well, and I think being able to say no to some things is a good thing. You know, like, there were times when they would say, would you guys be willing to, I don't know, sponsor a dinner for, no, that, you know, that's a ton of our resources going to one night, and us being able to say no to certain things and then knowing exactly what, yes, but we can put together, you know, little clothing kits for kids that come into custody. We did that for a long time. We put together little bins, you know, so when a child comes into custody, they have a little stuffed animal, they have an outfit, a brand new outfit, toothbrush, toothpaste, because oftentimes people that want to help, they have great intentions and they'll bring their big garbage bag full of clothes with stains and holes and bring it to CYFD because they have a hard time throwing it in the trash can where it belongs. And, you know, CYFD looks at that, you know, it really to go above and beyond and give exceedingly abundantly to this organization. I think that's where the trust really was built. And when we said yes, and we went above and beyond.
So are there one or two key points that you can share about lessons that you have learned, maybe things that went awry or maybe things that went really excellent as you were developing the relationship with the government agencies?
Ooh. I think you need to be very careful what you share. I think my wife is we're very open and honest. You ask us questions, you're going to get a real honest answer. But I think that as a Christian organization, we don't cut off our noses to spite our face. When guiding people to be foster parents, you're just going to be good parents. You don't have to ask all the church questions. Something along those lines, right? We're just a great organization that really wants to help kids be all that they can be and offer them hope and resources. That, and you know, I think early on we probably didn't give them enough credit or tried to stay within their guidelines. Because their guidelines, they have to follow them. I don't color in the lines, I don't stay in the box. If it ain't right, there's justice, right? And if your little box is wrong, then I'm going outside your box. We can't do that with governmental agencies. That's a lesson I learned. You know, they have their guidelines they have to stay in, and by honoring those, they allow us to stay in there with them. So maybe that, just because it ain't right, now if it's completely wrong, obviously there's other things that we can do, right? Hiring attorneys and things like that, we've done that. But there's other times that's just the way that it is until we change the laws, which we're working on. That's another thing that we've got very involved. Legislation is hard. And in New Mexico, it's the worst. But there again, I have to work within the guidelines, and I'm learning to not roll with the punches, because we continue to go upstream on all of these issues, but maybe attack it a different way. I hope that answered that.
Yeah. And then the last one, is there organizations that you've elected not to work with? And I don't want the names, but you know, when you're looking at your Aspen roots growing out, are there certain places that you don't want to go, and how do you make that determination that that's not a good fit?
As a Christian organization, right? If I'm teaming with children, youth, and family, I understand that they don't share my Christian values or my beliefs. Would that be fair? But I can still team with them because they're a government agency.
Well, and I think also just the banner of government agency, we take away the personalness of the fact that there are believers in CYFD. I know, it's a shock, isn't it? So for us, we needed to make sure that, hey, you know, we're going to stop looking at it like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna tiptoe and I'm gonna be very careful and I'm gonna, we're very honest about who we are, but we're also, like Clay said, we're not gonna cut off our nose to spite our face. So if we have an opportunity to be salt and light, we're doing it. We're doing it. And it's very clear who we are. And I believe that's what Jesus did. So.
As long as an agency stands in the square that we stand with, being ambassadors for children, and they're working for the overall good of a child, we'll team with them in that.
Okay, very good. Any questions from the group?
I have a question. Where do you get your funding?
Oh, good. Okay, officially, we are the worst fundraiser. No. If anyone in this room or hearing this right now would like to donate, please go to aspenproject.org. We are the worst. We get some help from our own church. There are some people that commit monthly. And then I'm very blessed to have a great job. I work at American Toyota.
Yes.
And when resources are slow, I seem to have really exceptional months. So thank you for asking that. It was in my notes. We're the worst. And we always seem to have just enough. So if anyone has $1 billion, I can have it spent next year and change the lives of children. But we can also run on a very small budget.
Our organization, we have no paid employees. Every single person right now is a volunteer. So that includes us.
How big is your volunteer base?
We probably have about 25 volunteers. Yeah. Regular, steady.
Anything?
Can I ask how you guys, I guess more so about the volunteers, how is it that you can get them to commit? Or like what guidelines or rules, do you have them sign like something that says I will commit to this
We
for
don't.
so long? No.
We don't. Yeah, we don't. We very much have an open door policy because we do know life happens. We feel the same way with our clients. We do not say, oh, well, you didn't go to this class, so you can't do this. We're very much, no, come. We want you here. If you can come once every 4 months, great. We have a stock room that needs some work. We have decorating. We have events that we plug a lot of volunteers into. Everybody wants to volunteer for prom. We have 50 people that come to, put the ornaments on the table. You know what I mean? So certain times we have just a plethora, and then there are times that we'll have 10 volunteers. Every other Saturday we have a breakfast that we put on for the girls in the reintegration center. And we have about 5 women that come regularly to meet with those girls. And those young ladies will be able to hang out with probably 4 months on the average. So that's time that we get to connect with them, find out what their needs are, hopefully plug them in with resources wherever they are. So, those are specific volunteers for that specific, event. So, wherever you would like to volunteer, we try to honor that.
The reintegration center, just so people know that aren't aware, it's when a girl gets out of jail and lives in a less strict or not in a cell setting, preparing her to go out and live her life. And it's 4 to 6 months.
Yeah, that's about, the average, yeah.
And they get those girls. You guys do understand that Project Zoe is a male-free zone, which means that we do not accept male volunteers.
Yes.
It's women helping women.
And we do have volunteers that do workshops. So say there's a person that would like to volunteer because they like to teach young ladies or people how to interview. Because that's a process, it's difficult, this age, the kids coming up now, it's hard enough with my, I have teenagers that I'm like, can you smile? It's like, so we show them what to wear, we do mock interviews. So we'll have a woman to come in to do that. We have a doctor that comes in and she'll do nutrition classes. We had a doctor come in one time that did anatomy. A lot of the girls didn't understand how their bodies worked. That's so important. I had a girl that had 2 kids. She didn't understand her female organs. So it was just, I really think that to be able to sit and comprehend that these are kiddos and I look at a 20-year-old and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's like 10, What did you have for breakfast? Cheetos and Kool-Aid. Okay.
A lot of these girls, even though they are very streetwise,
Yeah.
right, still have the mentality of a 10 to 15-year-old girl. The reason we extended, we used to be 21 years old. The reason we extended it to 25 is we're finding that a lot of the girls, especially the girls who've been trafficked, just never had a childhood. And unfortunately, there's that growing stage where we have to re-pour into, so we extended our age. And then, of course, just so you know, rules are all meant to be broken. So if you had a 30-year-old that needs something, we don't turn people away. Does that make sense? We have rules to kind of keep, just so I had something to write down. Next.
Any other questions?
A couple of questions. Mark, which one you want to answer first? But the challenges of churches supporting their ministry, and then toward the end of your presentation, support system for yourselves, being that you're in an environment where you're dealing with just some very broken situations. So I was curious to get more information on those two points of your ministry.
Okay, and what's the first question?
The challenges of getting churches to support what you're doing.
I'm going to be just relatively blunt. I go to California and I love my church. They're my family. Love them, love them, love them. We are an entity that works with all outside organizations and all churches. But you find that when I go to present, and Bearden knows us well enough to know that we aren't about getting something for us. We're about giving to you. If I go to you as an organization or a church, it's what we can do for you, not what you can do for us. And then hopefully, if we ever need something, there's resources needed, we hope that they would pour back in. But what you find is that by going to a church and saying, this is what we do, kind of a presentation like this, right? And then they go, well, where do you go to church? Well, I go to Calvary. Oh, and the sentiment, I think that's the right word, would be, then Calvary should probably take care of you. I don't want any of the churches in Albuquerque to take care of us, and I say that respectfully. The Lord owns all the cattle on all the hills. He provides each and every month. What I want to do is be able to give you our resources and provide your congregations with the ability to come and to serve alongside us.
Well, and to also know what the needs are in our community. Because there are, 400 kids right now available for adoption. And then I hear all the time, oh, well, abortion costs $400 and adoption's $40,000. If you want to adopt a child right now from CYFD, do you know how much it costs you? Nothing. Because the attorney fees that you're going to pay, they donate them. We've adopted 5 children from CYFD. We have not paid 1 penny to do so. So, and those are the things that we want to share with other believers. They're there, they're waiting,
and I don't know how our time is. By the way, we have to run out and go to a plane. But let me give you an example, right, of a girl. So my daughter, who is now married and living in Oregon, is sitting across from a young lady, right, who was taken at 12 years old. She was sold to traffickers by her mother. There's a lot more to the story, right? And was trafficked in 4 different states. She's sitting across from my daughter who's doing her hair and makeup. Because that's what we do. Because we want them to know that they are more. The hair and makeup has nothing to do with what we really do. Everyone gets that, right? So she's sitting across, and the young lady says, do you like working with your mom? My daughter goes, I love it. I love what I do here. And she goes, do you like working with, or do you get along with your mom? And she goes, no. My mom's the one who sold me for the first time. Okay? Now, let's progress. It's a horrible story, right? My daughter looks at this girl and she goes, or the girl looks at my daughter and goes, I know you. You go to Calvary. And my daughter goes, I do. She goes, I used to go to your skate park. Now, this little girl actually used to bully my daughter. Like, locked her in a room once. Then she was gone. My point being on this is this. That's my church. When they brought this young lady to come back to our church, she was coming back, I recognized her. I went up and hugged her like she was one of my daughter's friends because I remember. I didn't know who she was. They're in our churches. They're in our schools. They're at our workplaces.
Neighbors.
It's And just so you know, like right now, my blood pressure's up because I take full responsibility. Wasn't my responsibility? Just so you guys know, it's each and every one of our responsibilities. That's my responsibility. What if we would have taken the time? I probably would have yelled at the girl, locking my daughter in a doggone room. What if I would have taken the time, or we would have taken the time to say, hey, you're acting out. Well, this isn't exactly what we say, right? But are there other issues? What do you have? Not your mom sends you out to get a pack of cigarettes and you say, Mom, I don't have any money, I'm 12 years old. And she goes, it's okay, you'll figure out what to do. That's real. That was in my church. It's in your churches. It's in your neighborhoods. The kids that our kids play with, we don't know, guys. So I take full responsibility. So I'm pretty passionate about making sure that our churches and our communities and our schools understand that children are going to act out because they can't ask for help. How do you ask for help? Hey, my mom's selling me to the men that come to the house for drugs. Will you please help me? Doesn't enter a 12-year-old's mind because they're scared. We've had girls with Project Zoe that have run away and was rescued by our awesome ghost unit with the sheriff's department, right? Come to Project Zoe, and this is what we found out. The other girls, do you guys know that what chips are they put in dogs, right? And then you can run a scanner over it, and you can have a picture of the person, and all their information. If you were a young lady, 13, 14, 15, 18, 21, right? And I was your pimp, and I put a chip in you, and told you I could track you anywhere in the world, would you believe me? When I put a chip and I run my scanner over it, and it has your picture and all your information, right? This is the darkness that we're dealing with. By the way, it ain't true. A dog chip cannot be tracked by a satellite or by anything else. You have to be in close proximity. BS. But the girls with the chips they're real, that are put in those girls, feel that they can never leave their pimp because they'll track them down. That's whose responsibility is that? It's ours. It's us as a community. So, sorry, that's just a rabbit
And then
trail.
the second part of your question was, our support system.
Yes.
I think probably 5 or 6 years ago, we realized the toll that it was taking on us because we did adopt children that were taken from, horrible situations, and we had to reconcile that. So for us, a lot of it was, this isn't a burden that we need to carry. It isn't. We're there to provide everything that we have to help, but it's not our burden to carry. So, once we came to that realization that yes, and once we walk away from that situation, does it inhabit our prayers and our thoughts? Absolutely. But we know that we serve a huge God, and just laying it down with Him.
And you do have people in your lives that do counsel. I hope everyone, regardless of your belief system, I hope everyone has someone they can go to with the darkness, and they're unshockable with what you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's important. We have people like that.
I'm gonna pause and say thank you, and I'll stop recording and we'll do some group discussions. You guys let me know how fast you guys need to head out of town.
I have an alarm set.
Okay.
Could I just say thank you?
Yes, thank you.